This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Haba, welcome everyone. Good morning. Felchen Shushan Purim here in Kol Igor de Perka. The Gemara tells us Masechta Tainis. Gemara we spoke about a few weeks ago. Amar Rav Yehuda, Brei de Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas, Mishmei de Rav. Kishem shemishanichnas Av mematin b'simcha. Just like when the month of Av comes in, we diminish our happiness. Kach mishanichnas Adar marbim b'simcha. So too, when the month of Adar comes in, we increase our happiness. Question is why? What is so happy about Adar? Zakt Rashi, 5 words, 6 words, but peladic words. What's so good about Adar? Yemei nisim hayu Yisrael. These were miraculous days. The month of Adar, mamish, miraculous days. Purim or Pesach? Purim and Pesach. That's why Adar is so happy, because we have Purim and Pesach.
30 yom lifnei, you have to start to learn halachot.
Pesach's an Adar. That's a new one.
30 days before.
30 days before.
No, like they say,
halachot.
tell it to the Marines. Pesach's an Adar.
Marines. Who is the Marine?
From Adar you start and you keep on going for the whole rest of the year.
So what about Sukkot? Why should Rashi just say? And Sukkot is all Chanukah.
Sukkot comes already after Adar. You're already in the other season. You're going down in Simcha.
So, okay.
You ask any woman, she's not glad that Pesach is coming, basically.
Yeah.
Happiness is there.
So the El Yarabba points out that the din of Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. By the way, what's the halachic nafkamina of Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha? So the Gemara tells us in Masechta Tainis. The Gemara continues over there that Hai Bar Yisrael, the Islay Dina B'Hadei Kusi. If a Jew has a court case, if you have a parking ticket, l'shtamin mine ba'av, don't have the case in Av, v'limtzei nafshi ba'adar. Arrange for the case to happen during Adar. Right? So that's the nafkamina of Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. Says the El Yarabba, halacha l'maisa, v'nirali de Nisan hu ka'adar. Nisan is the same thing as Adar. Just like Adar is a month of good fortune for Klal Yisrael, so Nisan is also a month of good fortune for Klal Yisrael.
Geula.
Why? Shaharei Pirush Rashi, because Rashi explains Mishanichnas Adar Yemei Nisim Hayel Yisrael Purim uPesach. Because Rashi explains what's good about Adar, Purim and Pesach. V'zenirali Kavanas Rashi. This is what appears to me what Rashi's intention is. D'mada Amar Mishanichnas Adar Kavanas Einami Nisan. Yeah. What Rashi is saying is, when the Gemara says Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, the Kavanah is really 2 months, Adar and Nisan. The Kasha Rashi, because Rashi was bothered. Neima Nami Nisan Mishanichnas. Why doesn't the Gemara say Mishanichnas Nisan Marbim B'Simcha? And the answer is the Gemara is saying that. The Gemara is saying Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha is a 2 months halacha. Adar and Nisan.
Where does the Nisan come from?
Once Adar enters, and how long does it last for? 2 months. Adar, Nisan. So if you have a court case and you can't fit into Adar, Nisan is also good, right? Before Pesach, after Pesach. Don't do it on Pesach.
Also, if you have 2 others.
Oh, by the way, so I believe Rabbi Yaakov Emden writes in the Shelos Yavitz that the reason why Rashi says Purim uPesach is to teach that which Adar is Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. It's the one Hasamach LePesach.
Which Nisim was in Pesach?
Which miracles were in Pesach? You tell me.
I don't know.
Yetzias Mitzrayim,
That's all miracles.
Dam, Tzvadeya,
It all happened in Pesach.
Kinim.
It all happened in Pesach.
Oh, Pesach we left in Mitzrayim.
Didn't happen in
Makas
Nisan. It happened in
B'chayros.
Nisan.
Yeah, Makas B'chayros. Yetzias Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf. It all happened in Nisan. So Rabbi said, but what we're learning from this Gemara is that there is a very strong relationship between the months of Adar and the month of Nisan, and between the Yom Tov of Purim and the Yom Tov of Pesach. This we mentioned earlier. The Ramah tells us that before Sudas Purim, right, it's still Shushan Purim, so we could talk a little bit about Purim still. The Ramah tells us, Toiv lasoik ma'at b'Torah koydem sheyaschal hasuda. it's good to learn a little bit before the Suda. V'smach l'davar, what's the remez? La'Yehudim ha'isa oira, v'simcha. The darshina, we darshan oira zu Torah. So Rama says, before you start your Suda, you should learn a little bit, right? I believe there's also an Indian to have a little bit extra Suda in Shushan Purim. So maybe also Shushan Purim, before you Suda, you could learn also a little bit. Not too much.
A little bit more, maybe.
V'sma, so the Rama brings a remez. La Yehudim, Haisa, Oira is Torah, and then Simcha. Besides this halacha of learning before the Suda, there's another halacha about learning on Purim. And that is, the Shulchan Aruch tells us in the beginning of Hilchos Pesach, that we're about to be Mekayim this halacha, Shoylin, B'Hilchos Pesach, Koidim LePesach Shloshim Yoim. You're supposed to ask and darshan about the halachas of Pesach 30 days before. Now, how do you calculate the 30 days? Do you start today or do you start Purim? It's machlokes achronim. How does the Mishnah Berurah paskin? Shloshim Yoim. Mishnah Berurah, the very beginning of Hilchos Pesach, Sivkat and Gimel, Maschilim Miyoim HaPurim Atzmai. When do you begin learning Hilchos Pesach? Purim. So we have two separate halachas. One halacha is you have to learn before the Suda. One halacha is you're supposed to learn Hilchos Pesach on Purim. So we mentioned this in an earlier shiur. Comes along Rav Shlomo Kluger, and he sandwiches the two halachas together. If you have to learn before the Suda, and on Purim you're supposed to learn Hilchos Pesach, what should you learn directly before Suda's Purim? Hilchos Pesach. Right? We mentioned this. Rav Shlomo Kluger writes in the Shas Tshuvos Ha'elef L'Chas Shlomo, Siman Shin Pei Daled, Hinei HaPoskim Achronim Kasvu. The later Poskim write, you should learn before the Suda. By the way, the Rama explains in the Dakei Moshe, why should you learn before the Suda? It's not just a nice remez like Yudim Haisa Ira. Because a person at the Suda, he drinks, and when a person imbibes alcohol, it doesn't always bring out the best in everybody. So if you learn a little bit, it may keep you in check. That's the Indian of learning. But then, Rav Shlomo Kluger writes, Shahainu, what does it mean you should learn before the Suda? Sheyesh loy lasik b'Hilchos Pesach. Kivin demaschilim yam ha'Purim atzmai. So now Rav Shlomo Kluger has an amazing shaila. Yeah? Imagine you're the Rosh Bezdin, and someone comes to ask you a question on Chanukah. One guy has a shaila about Chanukah Lecht, and the other guy has a shaila about Hilchos Negoim, about Saras. Now, one thing is the Beis Hamikdash was standing, but now, there's no... So who are you going to answer first? The guy who's asking some zach, or the guy who has some fardar akasha about Hilchos Negoim? The halacha is, right? You're the guy, Shayol Ke'inyan. The guy who's Shayol Ke'inyan, you answer him first. So listen to the following shayla. Two guys come to the Rav on Purim. One guy has a shayla about Hilchos Purim, and one guy has a shayla about Hilchos Pesach. Who's asking more Ke'inyan? So we would say, of course, the guy asking today's Purim, Pesach's in 30 days. On the other hand, the Indian of learning Hilchos Pesach on Purim might be mamish ke'in doiraisa.
Overweight.
Why? Because we learn that of a pasuk. Vayidaber Moshe es mayadei Hashem al bnei Yisrael melamed sheMoshe tiken l'Yisrael shehu sholem medarshim shloshim yom koyin machag. So therefore, since we actually learn out from Sukkim, you should learn Hilchos Pesach 30 days before. And the Indian of Purim is only midrabanan. Maybe Pesach takes precedence. Or maybe Purim is more ke'inyan. And what's the answer? He leaves off as a tzarchian, who you should answer first. Right? So if that happens to you, if two people come over to you, one with the Hilchos Purim Shaila, one with Hilchos Pesach, you don't have to answer either one. You let them fight it out. Okay, we'll take a look inside. The Rav Shlomo Kluger writes, look on the 5th line. V'chayes nistapakti. At the present time, I have a suffix. B'shnei b'nei adam shabam lishol b'purim. Two guys have a shaila on Purim. Echad lishol hilchos Purim. One has a Purim shaila. V'echad lishol hilchos Pesach. One has a Pesach shaila. Lamin is kak and tchila. Who do we respond to first? Im neim al hashel b'hilchos Purim. Do we respond first to the one asking about Purim? Oy la hashel b'hilchos Pesach. And don't say Vein Lamer the Purim have a chayvus hayayim. Don't say Purim is that's the day. Today's Purim. That's the obligation of the day. V'chayvus shaita kaidem. And something which is obligatory now should take precedence. Say no. Kivan dehachiv lisha b'hilchos Pesach kaidem Pesach lam yom Since there's an absolute obligation to start learning Hilchos Pesach 30 days before, and today Purim begins the time, you can make the case, first you should respond to the guy asking about Hilchos Pesach, unbelievable thing. It's actually, there's a biblical source to start learning Hilchos Pesach 30 days before. This is analogous to what the famous klal, Tadiru Mekudash. What comes first? Mekudash. Or do we say no? Purim Adif. The Nechshav Yoiser Chayves Hayom Idin Pesach. Maybe Purim is a greater chiyuv than Pesach. Da'av Shemaschel Chayvay Achshav. Because even though you have a chiyuv now, Mikamokim have a rak Sarech Pesach. There's a chiyuv now to learn about the halachos, but it's only because of Pesach that's not going to be for another 30 days. Or do we say, or maybe, a third possibility. Who do you answer first?
Who do you want?
Whoever you want to. The tzarchian. So if that happens to you, tell them, hold on, I have to go ask a Shiloh, who I have to answer first. Rabbi Sai, we're about to learn what, I mamish love everything the Chassam Sofer says, but this is one of my favorites. Chassam Sofer, beautiful, beautiful words of the Chassam Sofer. Unbelievable.
Why is it small letters?
It's actually big, I enlarged it. It's because it's from his Hagois on Shulchan Aruch, so it is what it is. Anyway, if I were to ask you, the month of Adar, it's a month of good fortune. Is it only good mazel before Purim, or is it even good mazel after Purim? So we would say the whole month, right? The HaChodesh, Asher Nepach, Miyagoin, L'Simcha, Me'evel Yom Tov. So the Magen Avram says like this. What about the month of Av? Is the whole month the month of bad fortune?
After the 10.
Tu B'Av, it's good.
So the Magen Avram says like this. The same way Mishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha, the whole month is good. So too Mishenichnas Av Mematim B'Simcha, the whole month is bad. He makes that analogy. That's the analogy of the Magen Avram in Hilchos Tisha B'Av, Siman Taf Kuf Nun Aleph. The same way Adar is entirely good, Av is entirely bad. Says the Chassam Sofer, it's not a tzushtel, it's not an analogy. The whole month of Adar is good. You know why? Because even after Purim, the days are sandwiched in between Purim and Pesach. So since they're in the sandwich, the days after Purim are good. But after Tisha B'Av, Chassam Sofer says it's a different month. Which month? I thought there are only 12 months a year. There are 13 months a year. You ready? Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Menachem Av. You ever hear some people say Av, some people say Menachem Av? They're both wrong. They're both wrong. It's not either. Until Tisha B'Av is Av, after Tisha B'Av is Menachem Av. That's what Chassam Sofer says.
Interesting.
I never heard anybody say that. Some people say Av, Menachem, right? Rosh Chodesh Av, everyone corrects him, Menachem Av. The guy says Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av, everyone corrects him, Av. They're both wrong. Av is the first 9 days, and the end of the month is Menachem Av. The whole Adar is good because even the days after are in the sandwich. The whole Av isn't bad, only Av is bad. Menachem Av is good. Then the Chassam Sofer says a phrase, he coins a phrase, the most beautiful phrase. Listen to this. Look at number 8. Nichtav B'tzida, the Chassam Sofer on the Magen Avram. Again, the Magen Avram says, the same way the whole month of Adar is good, the whole month of Av is bad. Nichtav B'tzida. Dam Yada Adar. Right? The Magen Avram says, Av is like Adar. V'li Nira says, the Chassam Sofer, I hold, Dein Raya. The Hasam Hayamim Shabein Purim LePesach Vir. The days that are between Purim and Pesach, Mutalim Bein Beis Yamim Tovim. They're sandwiched between two Yamim Tovim. But more than that, V'yoyser Nirali, let me tell you why the whole month of Adar is good. Ha da Adar HaChodesh Kuloi B'Simcha. You know why the whole month of Adar is good? If the whole month of Av isn't bad, why is the whole month of Adar good? Misham D'Yayim Tesvav Adar, today, Hu Tchilas Yayim Lamed, is the beginning of the 30 days, Shesharlen V'darshim, L'fnei HaPesach. Listen to these words. Nimsa comes out, Yemei Purim u'Pesach, Chavukim zeh b'zeh. Purim and Pesach are hugging each other. They're hugging each other. Why? Because Pesach sticks out its arms. What are the arms of Pesach? The halacha that you have to learn Hilchos Pesach 30 days before. So Pesach is sticking out its arms, and what is it hugging? Purim. So anything in between is in the hug. Beautiful. Beautiful idea. That Pesach is reaching out its arms until Purim, and Nimsa, Purim u'Pesach chavukim zeh b'zeh. Purim and Pesach are hugging each other. V'zelo shaykh ba'av. But you don't have this in Av, that the days after Tisha B'Av should be bad, because, the Tisha B'Av somehow is hugging Shivasa B'Tammuz. That was before. There's nothing. So therefore, says Chasam Sofer, anything in the hug, anything in the embrace, are days of good fortune. So Rosh Hashanah is good. It's good.
Yes.
No, so the Magen Avraham is making the case the same way after Purim is good, after Tisha B'Av is bad. Some Sofer says that's an analogy. After Purim is good because it's hugging Pesach. So whatever's in between is good. But there's nothing after Tisha B'Av to make those days bad.
You said Nachamav.
Right, so it's good.
So it's good. So
right.
it's not bad. It's hugging those days also. So there's after things.
No, the point is that the Magen Avraham has no analogy from Purim. The days after Purim are good because of this concept of Purim and Pesach Chavukim zeh b'zeh. The days of Av are not good. The days of Av, there's nothing to make them bad.
But they're Menachamav. They're Menachamav. So they're Menachamav.
Exactly. That's the point.
Yeah.
That there's nothing Chavukim for bad by Av. That's the point. So Rabbi, so what we're learning is that there's this tremendous yachas between Purim and Pesach. Yeah. Like we saw. That Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha includes what? Purim and Pesach. Right? We see that the halacha of learning Hilchos Pesach reaches out to Purim. And it's not just in a concept, it makes halachic nafkaminos. That is why the Chasam Sofer says the days in between Purim and Pesach are Yamim Tovim, are Yemei Ratzon. So we like to explore a little bit what exactly is this relationship between Purim and Pesach, that the Hashgacha has it, that the Yemei Purim are stretching out and hugging the days of Pesach. Okay. Yeah, if anyone's familiar with the Purim story, basically, everything that happened on Pesach. I mean, Haman made the decree when the decree went out, approximately Yud Gimel Nisan. The Jews fasted for 3 days. There are different opinions exactly what days, but they certainly fasted on Pesach. Haman had his downfall on which Yom Tif? Pesach. We say at the end of the Haggadah. Some people say at the end of the Haggadah, V'amartem zevach Pesach. Look at number 9. In the Pisma, Rosh mi beis Rasha, machatzta be'etz chamishim. The head of the house of the Rasha you shattered on a tree 50 amos tall. Pesach. Haman has his downfall on Pesach. Right? That night, the king, he can't sleep. What night was that? What was the night that he couldn't sleep, that Haman was coming in, that Esther invited him to the party for the next day, and he woke up in the middle of the night, and he read the Sefer HaZechronos, and he realized he didn't reward Mordechai, and the next morning Mordechai is paraded through the streets. What night was that? Says Targum, Balaylahu Bei Balelia, that was the night, Iskatolu Kol Buchrei de Mitzray. It was the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim. What was Esther doing that day? Medrash Rabbah says, Shomer Mitzvah Layeh Davara. What was Esther being protected by? Zu Esther, Shahoisa Asuko b'mitzvahs, Bir Chametz. So Esther is busy learning Hilchos Bir Chametz. Megillas Esther, Perek Daled, Vayavar Mordechai, right? Mordechai violated. What did he violate? Eineg Yom Tov. Vayavar Mordechai al das l'hesanois. He had in mind to fast b'Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach. Shehesana Yudalad b'Nisan, v'Tezvav b'Nisan, v'tezalid, v'tezayin. By the way, there's a big kasha. That why do Chazal say he was over on Oineg Yom Tov that he didn't eat? It should say he was over the mitzvah d'oraisa of not eating matzah. Right? In other words, why are we saying he was over Oineg Yom Tov? Should have said he was over achilas matzah. So it could be he ate the matzah, which is less than the shiur. In other words, he ate a kazayis matzah, but if a person only eats kazayis, it's still considered fasting. Okay, but that's a different discussion. But in any event, we see Mordechai fasted on Pesach. Right? Rashi says, Vayav Mordechai al das. Mordechai Vayav Mordechai al das. He violated the religion. Right? Al das. Le'esano is b'yom tov rishon shel Pesach. She'esano yodalad b'nisan. V'tezvav. V'tezayin. Shaharei b'yom yud gimel nechtavu hasfarim. The svarim went out on Yud Gimel. So Rashi's opinion is, if the decree went out on Yud Gimel, when did they fast? 3 next days. Yodalad, Tezvav, Tezayin. By the way, there's a big discussion exactly which 3 days they fasted. Other Chazal say they fasted the 3rd day of Pesach. The Radvaz even has a tshuva. The Radvaz, one of the most prolific writers of tshuvas. The Radvaz was the Rebbe of the Arizal. Very good.
There's also the list of the Bnei Hama that they hang them. There's small letters of Yud Zayin.
Tav Shin Zayin.
As I said, that this was in Yud Zayin Nisan.
Yeah, that they were hung on Yud Zayin Nisan?
Yeah, so this is
there's a big Vav and a small Tav Shin Zayin. Here, look, the Radvaz says, Gilamadenu Rabbeinu Ma'or HaGoyla Perush Mashatargam Rav Yosef the Megillah Esther. That which Rav Yosef is Matargam in the Megillah B'layla Hu Nadadosh Nasa Melech V'kulei Shatargim, and everyone is Matargam Bei B'Lelia Iskatalu Ko B'Chure de Mitzrayeh, that it was the night of Makas B'Chayros. In other words, that night was the night of Makas B'Chayros. How's that possible? But the Targum says earlier on Vayihi Bayom HaShlishi, what was Bayom HaShlishi? The 3rd day of Pesach. That Esther fasted on the 3rd day of Pesach. So how could it be that night was the 1st day of Pesach? How could it be both the 3rd day of Pesach and the 1st day of Pesach? And basically the Radvaz has some kind of complicated cheshbon that every day of the calendar is really 2 different days. Right? That would explain a lot of people, by the way. What is that? Today is Shushan Purim, according to the lunar calendar. How about the solar calendar? Depends. We don't go by it practically, but conceptually it does have a certain reality. So in other words, according to the lunar calendar, we're on the Shushan Purim. According to the solar calendar, you could be Erev Purim, you could be Tainus Esther. There's an idea that Hoshana Rabbah, according to the lunar calendar, is Hoshana Rabbah. According to the solar calendar, it's Yom Kippur, Lulvush writes. So there is such a concept that even though we don't go after the solar calendar, it has some reality to it. Yeah, beyond that we can't explain. But the Radvaz says that's how you could reconcile the different cheshbonos. Next time someone comes late, maybe they have, they're going with a different calendar. You never know. Okay, anyway. So Rabbi Sai, basically, very interesting. Haman is killed on Pesach. Achashverosh can't sleep on Pesach. Mordechai is rewarded on Pesach. Mordechai fasts on Pesach. And you know what the kasha is? What's the rush? The letters went out on Yud Gimel Nisan that they're going to be killed when? Next year, in 11 months. 11 months. They're fasting. By fasting, they're not being Mekayim Oineg Yom Tov. They're being Mevatel the Mitzvah Sasei Dairaisa. Right? If you were the Gadol Hadar alive in those times, and you're trying to do tshuva, the last thing you're going to do is fast on Pesach. Right? Imagine. You're going to be killed in 11 months. You want to do tshuva. So, mind waiting till after Pesach when it's a mitzvah to fast, instead of fasting on Pesach when it's actually an avera to fast? Ooh, what are they rushing to fast on Pesach? Right? Oh, let's do tshuva. Well, let's do tshuva. That's very impetuous to fast on Pesach. They should wait till Pesach is over, when it's actually a good thing to fast. I mean, fasting is not always good, right? We know if a person fasts on Shabbos, you have to fast again. Tashlumin. Even if you have a right to fast, even for Tainus Chalon, you don't want to fast on Pesach. You have to bring a carbon. Shkoyach. You're not allowed to fast. Look in the Shulchan Aruch.
Yemei Simcha. Nisim.
Why are they fasting? Tfar Shlomo asks, V'kasha. Lama Bachar Dafka B'zman Zeh. Why did they Dafka choose this time to fast? Haloi Hagzera Nigzera Al Chodesh Adar. The Gzera was for 11 months later. V'lama Tzarech Lasanas Dafka B'Yom Tov. Why are they fasting on Yom Tov? Levato Mitzvah D'Oraisa. Okay.
Or like matzah. It's a good time to fast.
Matzah. It's like Atzasi Yitzhahara. Right? It's like by Shal Shudas time. All of a sudden, everyone's full. Right? By the lunch, people could eat up to the gills. And all of a sudden, when you have a chiyuv to wash, don't be fooled and think you could be yotze with mezainas. You're not yotze Shal Shudas with mezainas. Shulchan Aruch paskins. Shulchan Aruch says there are three opinions. Some say hamaitzi. Right? Some say peiros. Some say mezainas. Excuse me. Some say you have to wash. Some say mezainas. Some say peiros. Right? Says the Shulchan Aruch, the Svara Rishayna Iker. Says the Mishnah Berurah, listen to what the Mishnah Berurah says, that even the opinion that you could eat peiros and mezainos, they're maida, it's better to wash. And the first shita holds. So what does the first shita holds? It's not just better to wash. You're not yotzei with peiros. And how do we paskin? This is Rishon Ikar. We paskin, you're not yotzei with mezainos unless a person is achila gasa. According to some, washing for Shal Shudas, we don't necessarily paskin as dairaisa. It says hayom, hayom, hayom. You know, people, it's mamash atzasi yitzhahara. People, it comes to Shal Shudas, the one time you have a mitzvah to eat, all of a sudden nobody's hungry anymore. Mitzvah d'oraisa, according to some. Certainly it's extreme b'di'eva. The Gemara even says that kol ha'soyed shloisha sudas b'shabbos nitzol migimel peranios, right? Mechemes goy gumagog, yom hadin ha'gadol, and Gehenim, right? Gehenim, and Mechemes goy gumagog, and the yom hadin ha'asid. So imagine, there's a line of people, they may have to go to Gehenim. Oh, you don't have to go, you wash. You don't have to go, you wash. Oh, I ate peiros. You want them to start opening up the Shulchan Aruch, whether you go or you don't go, you better, it's better not to be on the line in the first place, Better to make sure, better to, play it safe. Anyway, that's just no extra charge for that. Anyway, so we're gonna suggest, Be'ezus Hashem, three possibilities why they dafka fasted and did tshuva on Pesach, and we'll try to explain again the relationship between Purim and Pesach.
How important is Lechem Mishnah?
Important, but more important to wash. Yeah. Okay.
Is it a problem? It wouldn't be a problem fasting on Chol Hamoed Pesach.
Chol Hamoed, it's a shaila, but certainly they fasted the first day of Pesach. What's the pshat? Okay. Rabbi say, what Aveira did Klal Yisrael do to deserve the destruction that Haman was going to place upon them? What was the Aveira?
Each of the Suda.
They were nened from the Suda. They bowed down to the Tzelem. Does anybody know what was the original Aveira that Klal Yisrael did that they warranted this punishment of Haman? So going back, even before, when Yaakov Avinu took the Bechira from Esav, what was Esav's reaction? Ze'aka achas hizik Yaakov le'Esav. Yaakov caused Esav to let out a geshrai. T'chsiv kishmaya Esav es divrei aviv. When Esav heard what his father said that Yaakov took the Bechira, vayizak ze'aka. And where were we paid back? Right? So that means the whole gezerah of Purim was why? Yaakov made Esav cry out. Anybody know what day of the year did Yaakov make Esav cry out? Pesach. How do I know? Because what does Yitzchak ask for? Shnei Gedoya Yizim, 2 goats. And Rashi says, Yitzchak, you know people are hungry, but 2 goats, that's a big meal. Even one big 2-pound rib, they bring out this thing that's bigger than the plate, right? It's sizzling. That's a batal b'shishim to the whole cow, the whole goat. And Yitzchak needs to eat 2 of the goats. Rashi says, "V'chishnei gedoy yizimay machal shel Yitzchak ela Pesach haya echad hikriv lepischai ve'echad asa matamim." Everyone spoke out. Yitzchak said what? We'll probably mention it again, but we'll learn it. And if I say it again, you make believe you didn't hear it before, right? That Yitzchak said when Esav comes, "Do you have anything for me?" So what does Yitzchak say? "V'oichal mikoil, I ate everything." He ate everything. There's always room for dessert. What do you mean he ate everything? The answer is that the Torah said that Yitzchak says to Esav, "Ba achicha b'mirma." Your brother came with trickery. What's the mirma? Says Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonenfeld. The mirma is begematria afikaimen. Yitzchak was fed the afikaimen by Yaakov, and ein maftir nachar Pesach afikaimen. Va'oichal mikol. I ate everything I'm halachically able to eat. So it was Pesach. So perhaps if the whole avera that Klal Yisrael did was the fact that they sinned against Esav, they made him scream out when Pesach. So they had to be masake in the chet. Boy b'yom on Pesach. Okay, that's one. That's the beginning. What other avera did Klal Yisrael did to warrant the destruction of Haman? What other avera did? Right? The Gemara tells us in Megillah. No. What other avera did Klal Yisrael do to warrant the destruction of Haman? They were nene from the Suda of Achashverosh. Okay, you ready for this? Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. They were nene from the Suda. When were they nene from the Suda? Says Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. Achashverosh is celebrating B'shna Shalosh L'Malchai, the 3rd year of his reign. When does the reign of a Goyish king begin?
Nisan. No Nisan.
Tishrei. The Malchei Yisrael begin. Malchei Umaysan begin in Tishrei. How long was the party? Yamim, Rabim, Shmainim, and Ma'asyan. Shmainim, Ma'asyan, 180 days is how many months? 6 months. Okay, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, Shvat, Adar, 6 months. But you have to minus 3 days. Because Malei Chaser, right? 180 days is 3 extra days more than 6 months. Because it's 30, 29, 30, 29, 30, 29. So it takes you to Gimel Nisan. But, says Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz in the name of Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, Yamim Rabim. Yamim is how many days? 2 days. Rabim, Miyat Rabim is 3. So 2 plus 3. Ches Nes Nisan. Yeah? Ovim La'is Hayamim, right? Asa Hamel Chalam Hanimtzum Shushan. Mishteh? Shivas Yamim. Till when? Pesach. When were Klal Yisrael nena from the Suda? Pesach. So when do they have to do tshuva for being nena for the Suda on Pesach? Pesach. Yeah, that's a different Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. Yeah, but look what he writes in the Aris Davash. Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz writes, Ki betchilas shalosh l'malchusai, on the 3rd day of his malchus, asa mishneh. Right, in the 3rd year of his malchus, he made a party. The Goyish kings count from Tishrei. The party started Tishrei. Over Manas Halevi, Shechibra Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, Heavy Medrash. The Rav Shlomo Alkabetz brings a Medrash. Yamim Rabim. Yamim Shnayim. Yamim is 2 days. Rabim Shlosh. Rabim is 3 days. Ki Chamisha Yamim Haisa Tchilas HaSuda. Kaidem Kuf Pe Yamim Haner Pasuk. So you had 5 days of Suda before the 180 days. That takes you to what day? Ches Nisan. Then came Tchilas Tishrei Kuf Pe Hey. You have 185 days. B'shisha Chadashim Gimel Malayim V'Gimel Chaserim. 3 months are 30. 3 months are 29. Kedar Chakvis. So Nishlamu Lefi Zeha Kuf Pe Hey Yamim B'Ches Nisan. The 185 days were completed on the 8th day of Nisan. V'Yachakach Asa Suda Shivas Yamim L'Ha'am Hanimtzim B'Shushan. And then he made a party for the Jews that were in Shushan. What? For 7 days, and came Yom Hashvi Hayatesvav B'Nisan. So it comes out a beautiful thing. The Avera of Yaakov was Pesach. The Avera of Klal Yisrael was Pesach. The Tshuva was Pesach. But perhaps we could explain on a little bit of a deeper level. And that is, the Gemara Masechta Chulin, Daf Kuf Lamed Tes Amud Beis asks, Esther min HaTorah Minayin. Where is there a remes to Esther in the Torah? Says the Gemara, Ve'anoichi haster panai bayemaho. I'm going to hide my face from you on that day. That's the remes to Esther, because you found those 4 letters, Aleph, Samach, Taf, Resh. It's not talking about Esther. Oh, you found the letters? What's like a New York Times crossword puzzle? Oh, Aleph, Samach, what's codes? Biblical Bible codes? That's a remes to Esther? It's not talking about Esther. What's a Esther minat Torah minayin? And Bechlal, the Gemara asks, why doesn't the Gemara ask, everything's in the Torah? Does the Gemara ask, Igor de Perka minat Torah minayin? Doesn't ask it, right? Every single person that ever lived, it says Yecheska minat Torah minayin, right? Yirmiyah minat Torah minayin? No. So what are we asking Esther minat Torah minayin? Well, all of a sudden the Gemara is becoming the Balaturim. We're looking for a Muslim, and so they make a whole Masechta about a Muslim. Only Esther. Esther minat Torah minayin.
Also Haman.
Also Haman. So we talk about, yeah, that's true. But why Esther? Says the Gra, very amazing idea. If I were to ask you, what was greater, Hanukkah or Purim? Which was a bigger miracle? Obviously, Hanukkah. Purim wasn't even a miracle. It was B'dar Chatava. Was it? It was through the laws of nature. The laws of nature did not change. So if I were to ask, what's greater? What was more miraculous? Hanukkah. But what was greater? Purim is much greater. Purim is much greater. Why is Purim greater? You know why Purim is much greater? Because the fact that when the Beis HaMikdash is standing, God changes nature, big spiel. That's what the Beis HaMikdash is all about. The miracles happening all the time in the Beis HaMikdash. The fact that when things are going well, God is going to make tremendous miracles for us, big deal. Big deal. But how about when the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, and we're Oived Avodah Zarah Gil Arayah Shvichas Damim, and we're kicked out of Eretz Yisrael, and we're in Bavel, and we're intermarrying, and we forgot even Nehemiah says what a sukkah was, and we mamish sink to a very low level, and God doesn't want to have anything to do with us, and He hides His face from us, and even so Hashem is peering through the cracks, and He's saying, no matter how low you sink, and no matter how far I am away from you, I will still manipulate things and save you. That's much greater. The mashal I think of as, let's say every relationship has its ups and downs, right? A relationship that's the same every single day of the year is dead, right? Every marriage, every friendship, right? You have a friend, you have a spouse. It's the same every single day? No. Some days are good, some days are not so good, some days are bad, right? With anybody, there are ups and downs. There's no such thing as. So let's say you have a friend, and one day he buys you he gives you a gift certificate to the best restaurant in the world, $500 gift certificate. That means you're going to be friends forever? No, it just means you're having a good week with him, or your spouse does you the most amazing favor. That means your marriage lasts forever? No, it means absolutely nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's a good time. It's a good time. How do you know that the relationship will last forever if even when you're fighting like cats and dogs and you're not talking to each other, you haven't said a word to each other in a month, and you have an interview the next day, and you wake up early in the morning and the breakfast is prepared very nice for you on the table, and even though you're not talking to each other, but you see the Ava is there even at the lowest point, then it's Shuasam Hayisa Lanetzach, it's eternal. Because even B'toich Hester Panim, it's still there. It won't break. So says the Vilna Gaon, Esther minat Torah minayin means like this. How do we know that even at a time of Hester Panim, how do we know that even when things are going bad, the Rebbeinu Shalom is still going to be with us? Esther minat Torah minayin means, how do we know that when we're going to be thrown into Galus and God is not going to be performing open miracles, Hashem's still going to pull through for us? Even at a time of Hester Panim, God is Oimed Achar Kaslenu Mashkiach Menacharakim. He's peering through the cracks. He's saying, I'm not forgetting about you. That's why Chazal say, Kol hayamim tovim asidim li batel. All the yamim tovim are going to be batel. Upurim is going to last forever. Why? What? One day we're not going to have Pesach anymore? We're not going to have Shavuos. We're not going to have Sukkot. Chas v'shalom. Even Kutzah Shiur won't be batal. You know what the answer is? When Mashiach comes and God makes miracles for us in Yimais HaMashiach, so then we don't need to think about Yetzias Mitzrayim so much. So he split the sea. He's going to destroy all the Goyim in a much greater way than when he destroyed the Mitzrayim in Mitzrayim. So we're still going to celebrate Pesach, but the significance of Pesach will be batal. Batal means like batal b'shishim. It won't be as important. But Purim will never be batal. Why will Purim never be batal? Because forever and ever and ever, how will Klal Yisrael know that this is going to last forever? Purim is going to show us that no matter what, the Av of Klal Yisrael, of the Rebbeinu Shalom is always for Klal Yisrael. Because even mitoy chester panim, he's still with us. The Gemara says like this, and the Gemara in Chagiga Daf Hey, an amazing Gemara, that an Apikoros came to Rabbi Shiur ben Chananya. He looks Rabbi Shiur ben Chananya in the eye, and he turns his head away, he shows him in the back of his neck, and he says, "You're a nation that God has turned his back to." He's like, pantomiming God's relationship with the Jewish people. God has turned his head away from us. And Rabbi Shiur ben Chananya motioned something else to him. He stretched out his arm to the men, and he said, "Oid yadai netuya." His hand is still outstretched. What's the shakla v'tari over here? So the Gra explains that the min says to Rabbi Shiur ben Chananya, "Yeah, God made miracles for you in Mitzrayim. He split the sea, dam, sfardeya, akinim, arav, dever. He changed nature. Wonderful! That's when when you first got married to him. But now, he deserted you. Ama de mahadra ape mine. Hashem turned his face away from you. He's not interested in you anymore. You're telling me about the good olden days, Koyamar Hashem, zacharti lo chesed nurayach, that things were good when we first got married? Shkoyach. But now God deserted you. What does Rabbi Shiur ben Chananya say back? The zroya netuya that Hashem stretched out when He took us out of Mitzrayim, oid yadai netuya. It's still there. You may not see it functioning miraculously and supernaturally, but the fact that Hashem manipulates nature, benisim nestarm, with hidden miracles, is no less of an outstretched arm than when He took us out of Mitzrayim. In other words, even though now, in the times of Shiur ben Chananya, referring to the miracles of what happened in Persia and in Purim, even though it's not supernatural, it's still Yadai HaNetuya, it's still outstretched. So I believe, Rabbi Isai, that when Klal Yisrael fasted on Pesach, you know what they were telling the Rebbeinu Shalom? They were saying to the Rebbeinu Shalom like this: Rebbeinu Shalom, very nice, you took us out of Mitzrayim, and you split the sea, and the sea walls came crashing down on the Mitzrayim, and there were open miracles, Bezraya Netuya, Nisim Gluyim, Moira Shechina. What good is that doing us right now? When we're in Galus, Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, there are no miracles. So very nice. Once upon a time, we lived the dream, as they say. Not doing us any good right now. Who needs Pesach? Are you going to show us? Almost Klal Yisrael felt like what the min showed Rabbi Shiur ben Chananya. Yes, once upon a time, there was Kriyas Yamsuf, but now it's Amma de Mahadre Api Mine. It's like the urination that Hashem turned His back to. Show us Oid Yadai Netuya. So Klal Yisrael said, Ribbono Shel Olam, what's the purpose of Nisim Gluyim? What does the Ramban write at the end of Parshas Bo? The purpose of Nisim Gluyim. Look at beautiful words. Ramban writes, Min hanisim hagedolim hamaforsamim. From the great and obvious miracles, Adam Moide Benisim Hanistarim. A person comes to believe in the hidden miracles. In other words, everybody knows if Hashem would split the sea, that's a nes nigla. But if Hashem orchestrates something for somebody that he made some extra money, b'derech hateva, and he was able to pay his bills, and then if he looks back at it and he says, how did that happen? Where did I get that money from? It's a nes nistar, but it's just as good as a nes nigla. Alright, in everybody's everyday life, they see certain coincidences that it's not a coincidence. It's Rebbeinu Shalom pulling the strings. From the Nisim Gluyim, a person is maida to the Nisim Nesarim. Shehem Yisoid HaTorah Kula. The Yisoid of the Torah is that whatever happens in our personal lives, as coincidental as it may seem, is absolutely miraculous. It's like Kriyas Yamsuf. It's like Dam Tzvardei Akinim Arav. However a person is guided in their life, that is Ribbon Shalom. It's not that there are two types of Nisim. They're Nisim like in Mitzrayim, and they're hidden miracles. No. From the open miracles, a person acknowledges that the hidden miracles are miraculous. That is the fundamental principle of the Torah. Look what he writes. She'ein la'adam chelek b'Torahs Moshe Rabbeinu. You cannot be considered a believing Jew ad shenamin, unless you believe b'chol dvareinu, that whatever happens to us, u'mikreinu, whatever occurs to us, shekulam nisim, they're all miraculous, ein bohem teva, there is no such thing as nature, u'minhago shalaylam. If you think that when you got home, and there's a parking spot waiting for you in front of your house, in front of your building, if you think, oh, I just happened to have gotten there at the right time, if you think that it was just a coincidence, you can't be considered a believing Jew. You have to believe God performed a miracle for you, that the parking spot was open. If you were in a tight situation, Baruch Hashem, right time, right place at the right time. No, not right place at the right time. Hashem made a nace for you. That is the definition of Yahadus. To believe that everything, Kol Dvareinu, Umikreinu, Kulam Nisim. So Rabbi Sai, Klal Yisrael, they're stuck in the Gullus. They're stuck in Persia. They say, very nice, Rebbeinu Shalom, you took us out of Mitzrayim, Benisim Gluyim. But what good is that going to do for us at a time like this when we have no Beis HaMikdash? And Rebbeinu Shalom, you hide your face from us. Your name is not even in the Megillah. Show us you're still here, B'derech Nisim Nistarim. So Klal Yisrael, they're mevatel the mitzvah of matzah. They're mevatel Pesach. They're saying to Rebbeinu Shalom, what good is that doing us for now? And the Yom Tif of Purim was Niskan, sort of back-to-back to Pesach. In other words, the first month of the year is Nisan. It's the month of open miracles. And as the year progresses, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, right? We know that there are 12 permutations of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Right? Yud Kei Vav Kei has 12 permutations. Nisan is, right? Yud Kei Vav Kei forwards.
Zachar.
And as the months progress, the Yud Kei Vav Kei gets mixed up until you get to the last month of the year, Adar, where the Yud Kei Vav Kei is backwards. That shows in Adar, Hashem is mamish behind the scenes, completely acting within the realms of Teva. The first month of the year, Hashem is acting supernaturally. The last month of the year, Hashem is acting under the guise of Teva. But don't think that it's any less, or Hashem is acting any less miraculously. And that's why the Yom Tif of Purim is within the 30-day grasp of Pesach, back to back. It comes out, these two Yom Tovim are chavukim zevazeh. They're hugging each other. They're embracing each other. Because in the times of Purim, Klal Yisrael had to fast and tell the Rebbeinu Shalom, very nice with all the things He did for us in Mitzrayim. But what good is it going to do for us now? And Hashem came through to show us Oid Yadei Natuya, that even in the Gullus, even though we don't see Him, even though His name is not mentioned in the Megillah, His hand is just as outstretched as it was in the times of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So you have these two Yom Tovim, Chavukim Zebezeh, they're mamish, they're hugging each other. Because from the Yom Tif of Pesach, which is the Yom Tif of Nisim Gluyim, we come to be Moida that the Yom Tif of Purim, which is Nisim Nistarim, is no less miraculous. By the way, that's why Chazal tell us, if you have two Adars, in which Adar do you celebrate Purim? Why Adar Beis? Mismach Geula leGeula Adif. You have to juxtapose the two Yom Tovim. You have to put Purim and Pesach next to each other. Because these are two miracles that are two flip sides of the coin. Like the Ramban says, Min HaNisim Gluyim Adam Moide Benisim Nistarim. These two Yom Tovim are Chavukim Zebezeh. So Rabbi said that's what Chazal mean. Mishenichnas Adar Marvin B'Simcha Purim and Pesach. These 2 days create a sandwich, an embrace. These are the days of Mitir Rabbi Sai, Afreilichen Adar, and Afreilichen upcoming Nisan.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.